I should probably start this video by apologizing to everyone in the Richmond metal scene because I was a hot mess back in the day. So I'm sure I was annoying to deal with, and my memory of things that happened isn't great, just little snippets of things that don't make much sense, like trying to stage dive off the top of a refrigerator at an after party at Collapse Fest, or opening the bathroom door at Alley Cats during a show to see someone who had clearly been beaten unconscious. Good times. Welcome to Daily Metal, where every day a different metal album gets dissected for your sadistic listening pleasure. I'm the heavy metal lawyer, Emma, and in this show, I'll talk about why the music in these albums is so good and where they fall in the history of music's most wretched genre. On July 12, 2011, Cannabis Corpse packed a bong full of uncompromising death metal and put out Beneath Grow Light's Thou Shall Rise. I'm reading a book right now called African Rhythm and African Sensibility, and in the introduction to the book, the author talks about the participant observer approach to ethnography, where he studied the Evi and Dangbama drummers by learning how to do their style of drumming, participating in the rituals like sacrificing 2 chickens to the ancestors, and even performing with them at important festivals. The author argues that this intimate approach, which never fully allowed him to become part of the culture due to his American upbringing, at least allowed him to understand to some degree what the drumming feels like from the perspective of the people in the culture rather than simply outside of it. Based on that, you could say that I was a participant observer of the Richmond metal scene in the 2000s and 2010s, because while I did not live there, and in some way that made me not part of the scene, I played shows with the bands, went to parties with them, befriended and had regrettable one-night stands with them. And unlike the scenes I had interacted with in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, Richmond had a relatively welcoming scene, and even the most respected bands there would be seen at house shows and parties just like everyone else. I was so enamored with the scene that I actually made a short documentary about it, specifically about the crust punk music festival, Collapse Fest, which is still floating around on the internet somewhere. And I've been told that some people really like it, which I consider a high honor, even though I am not going to share it myself because I personally do not like it. The Richmond scene was more diverse than the other scenes I had interacted with. It wasn't all white kids from the suburbs. There were a lot of women involved with the scene, and there weren't elitist restrictions about what styles of music were or were not cool. Many members of the scene played in multiple bands spanning across different genres. Cannabis Corpse is a great example of such a band. Cannabis Corpse was started by Landfill, the bassist of modern thrash metal giants Municipal Waste. Cannabis Corpse was straight up death metal like its namesake, Cannibal Corpse. But with lyrics focused on humor, especially about weed and the metal scene. Vocalist Andy Horn was also in a band called Battlemaster, a war metal band with elements of black metal, and guitarist Nick Poulos, who was one of the scene's most respected musicians, an incredibly gifted guitarist, was also in the crust punk band Parasitic and the new wave of British heavy metal sounding band Vulture. Like fellow Richmond band Gwar, Cannabis Corpse was as much a kind of metal theater as it was a concert. The band, for example, would have a fan dress up as a giant nug of weed and get into the mosh pit. there were a lot of things that you would also see at municipal waste shows, like people bringing boogie boards to the show and crowd surfing on the boogie boards. I recall at one show, Andy went on a long rant about how people shouldn't smoke synthetics like K2 and Spice, and then at another show talking about how Richmond's Hollywood Cemetery was one of the best places to smoke up, which is pretty metal. I also remember at one party where the members of the band Cannabis Corpse got into an argument with the members of the band Appalachian Terror Unit, a great crust punk band, about whether Virginia or West Virginia had the best weed. I don't believe that argument has been yet settled. And Cannabis Corpse paired this kind of theatricality with some really good death metal music. And Beneath the Grow Lights Thou Shalt Rise was a great example of it, and really kind of helped me get back into death metal at that point in my life, because at that point I was more into crust punk. I was especially into the kind of the neo-crust that was coming out, like Nux Vomica and Fall of a Frafra, or Frafra. And Cannabis Corpse provided this outlet where you could like and enjoy death metal without being so serious, without being so grim and grotesque. And I like those things about death metal, but it does get to be a bit much at times. So it was great to have a little bit of comic relief. I remember seeing the band performing around the time this album came out. I'm not sure if it was before or after, but it was at Barbecue, which was a concert organized by the band Guar and Barbecue. And it was a great show. The weed costume was out. Yeah, just a phenomenal band. And just, it really is kind of the example, because of band members being in so many different bands, because of the band's very tongue-in-cheek attitude and all of the references to other metal bands, not just Cannibal Corpse, but also, other sort of classic death metal bands like Morbid Angel. They literally have a song. It's not on this album, it's on their first album, but it's I Come Bud instead of the Cannibal Corpse song I Come Blood. It's just shit like that. It's hilarious. And it really makes me, reminds me of how much I really do love the metal scene as like a group of people having fun. That's what I've always loved about Cannabis Corpse and about Municipal Waste as well. That's what I really liked about the Richmond metal scene at its best. And, now that the pandemic is over and people are getting back out to shows, I'm just really happy about it. I can't wait to see all you guys out at shows. I can't wait for all of us to see all of our favorite bands. It's going to be great. So what's your favorite metal scene and why? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please subscribe so you can find out what the metal album of the day is, why it is so brutal, and where it fits in the history of the genre.